Hello again. We are now in chapter 13, last chapter in the novel. We are definitely in the epilogue part of the novel, the aftermath part of the novel. Phineas is dead. We have to see what's going to happen now. Jean starts by saying, we always comprehend the stage that we just left, the one just before the one we're in. And a group of soldiers arrive on the campus, and they're parachute riggers. Well, isn't that symbolic? What do parachutes do? Well, they soften your fall. Jean says they prevent falls. He's wrong. They soften your fall. Maybe Finney could have used a parachute to soften his fall. Maybe Jean needs a mental parachute to soften his fall into self-realization. We're not sure. But Jean says you have to be right about never talking about what you can't change. There are a lot of things you can't change. You can't change the past. You can't change how tall you are, how short you are. You can't make your curly hair straight, your straight hair curly. He knows this. He's learning about reality. What happened to Finney? People didn't accuse Jean of what happened to Finney because they couldn't believe it and they couldn't understand it. Again, they wouldn't believe that one kid would jounce the limb so the other one would fall off and shatter his leg and die. That's too drastic, too cruel. Jean, though, remember his wording, my leg's bent, the limb bounced, Finney fell off. It doesn't sound deliberate to me. I think it was an accident. Summer's peace returns to Devon, and Jean can be sure who sensed the gypsy summer. It was only the two of them, Jean and Finney. And now it's only Jean who knows about the gypsy summer, but the gypsy summer is over. Mr. Hadley, one of the teachers, says that men never change. And he says that what people will get from your war memories is respect for you. Well, he may be right. The odd thing is, many veterans don't talk about the war. They don't talk about the war because of the things they experienced and the things they saw. Kurt Vonnegut in Slaughterhouse-Five says that the real warriors never talked about it very much. They didn't have war stories. Mr. Hadley leaves, and Jean says, and he's right about this, that a big part of friendship is accepting your friend's shortcomings, accepting his faults. Phineas accepted Jean's shortcomings completely. He never questioned them. He never mentioned them. He never said, you don't do this and you can't do that. Did Jean accept Phineas's shortcomings? Mr. Brinker, Hadley Brinker's father visits, and Brinker complains about the war. They will fight it, but the elders are responsible for it. And this is a significant statement. Finney's dead. But his belief about the war is living on, because it was Finney who said that the war was a comic, huge joke played by fat, foolish men bungling behind the scenes. And Brinker's saying pretty much the same thing. So Finney's belief lives on. But a major quote in this book by Jean is that he says wars are made by something ignorant in the human heart. We got to talk about this. Ignorance. Ignorance is not knowing. There's something that the human heart doesn't know that causes war to occur. Jean doesn't understand what happened on that limb, doesn't understand why his leg's bent, doesn't understand a lot of things. Something ignorant in the human heart. He just doesn't know. Nobody knows. And that's why nobody's accused him. What disappears now from Devon is happiness. What replaces it is this thing called morale, spirit, war spirit. And it's not the same thing at all. But I have to quote here that Finney had, he says, a vitality that could not be quenched. Phineas alone had escaped this. He possessed an extra vigor, a heightened confidence in himself, a serene capacity for affection, which saved him. Nothing as he was growing up at home, nothing at Devon, nothing even about the war had broken his harmonious and natural unity. So at last I had. Well, that's Phineas. We're going to have to talk about Jesus Christ pretty soon. But his vitality could not be quenched. Even with a maimed leg and crippled, his vitality could not be quenched. He endured so forcefully that what he had to say would seem crazy to anyone else, and what they had to say would seem incomprehensible to him. Nobody would understand it. He sized up the world with personal reservations. He let its facts sift through him and be accepted only a little at a time. Only as much as he could assimilate without a sense of chaos and a sense of loss. Remember, he's the last one to let the fact of the war penetrate him. He doesn't accept it until he sees leopard, and then he says, yeah, there's a war. There's no turning away from it now. Everyone else, on the other hand, in contrast to Finney, found something in themselves pitted against something in the world around them. An athletic opponent, an enemy from another country. When the people in Gene's graduation year grasped the fact of the war, the simplicity and unity of their characters broke when they found this thing in the world that was hostile and they had to deal with it. It's almost like losing your belief in Santa Claus. There's no more Santa Claus. There is no Santa Claus. And you go, oh, darn it, I wish I could have held on to that. Well, it's the same thing with them. There's a hostile element in the world, and they're coexisting with it, and they're going to have to deal with it. Finney, on the other hand, had the vigor, as I already said in the quote, the self-confidence, the capacity for affection. Affection is loving feeling for somebody else. What broke his harmonious unity, Gene still believes and still feels guilty that he broke Finney's harmonious unity. Gene says now he is ready for the war. I have no hatred to contribute to it. Phineas absorbed it, he took it with him. Gene still thinks he hated Finney. I never killed anybody. I never developed a sense of hatred of the enemy. My war ended before I put on a uniform. I was on active duty at school. I killed my enemy there. Question, who is the enemy Gene is talking about? Is he talking about his insecure self? Is he talking about Finney? I don't know, and we don't know. Phineas never feared, and Phineas never hated. But other people saw a menace in the world, and then they saw a menace and they immediately put up a defense, and they developed a particular frame of mind. The problem is the defenses caused them to suffer, not somebody else. The enemy never attacked across the frontier, and perhaps there was not an enemy. And the novel ends. Well, all right. Why do we need to talk about Jesus Christ? Well, let's talk about that. When Jesus Christ comes into the world, he preaches a fairly simple message. Love one another, take care of one another, be good to one another. It was a very simple message. All of his sermons pretty much fall into those categories. But the world was definitely not ready for him. You can tell because of what happened to him. The world was so violent, messed up, that he is crucified. Remember, the reigning power at the time is the Roman Empire. They can't handle him. There was a movie I saw once. The Roman emperor is talking. He's thinking out loud and he's saying, is this how the empire is going to end? By a man in a robe and sandals preaching on a hill? Is this how it's going to end? Well, yeah, you're right, it did. The world was not ready and could not handle Jesus Christ and his message. In the same sense, Phineas, I'm not saying he's Jesus Christ, I'm saying he's somewhat similar. The world cannot handle Phineas. It's almost as if he has to die because he's a poor fit in the world. The world's at war, Finney is not at war. Finney never fears, Finney never hates. Finney has affection. He has affection for Gene. He has affection for his classmates. He just doesn't fit in this world. And so maybe it's appropriate that he dies. When you read The Great Gatsby next year, remember this statement: the lovers in the novel will die. That's how messed up that world is. And so this novel ends. Our next novel will be Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I'll be doing lectures for that as well. And I gotta warn you, it's my favorite novel to teach in the course, but this was a good one too. Thank you.